Welcome back, beautiful Super Soul Sisters, and today I'm going to talk about inclusivity shoes, so inclusive shoes. This is always a tricky one. It's such a interesting dynamic when people do not include other people for whatever reason. So, we've all got our differences, and I personally don't sync with people who don't include. I don't care who they are. There's no excuse for it other than, they've been conditioned. That's all I can say, is that somehow they have been influenced negatively to the point where they think that it's right to not include and to discriminate against another person for whatever reason. And I think, I really wish, it's an ongoing, isn't it? Unfortunately, we've been so impacted through history on, humans have a lot to answer for, really, don't they? A lot of wars have been fought over this. We're better than you are. It's all for agenda purposes, isn't it? If you look at the black swan shoes in those scenarios, they're hiding something quite often. They've got an agenda that is not a good one, and it's normally self-serving. And it's being aware of just how much that is impacting us even in this modern day and age. It's interesting. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and of course there was a lot of discrimination up until the age of about 10. There was a war for us. And then the regime, there was a regime change, and Mugabe came in, and oddly, and I saw this in South Africa a lot too, I have to say, the situations just got flipped. So instead of it being, white against black, it then became for a little while black versus white. And they were being, retaliation. Understandably, they're upset. For years they've been treated poorly, and, you can understand that they'd be upset. And I get it, After a while, things did settle. But the tribal stuff still happened, where it was then Africans against Africans, because he was in one tribe, and the Shonas and the Ndebelés for years have been at each other's throats, discriminating just because they were in a different tribe. And being Mugabe was in the more violent kind of tribe, so his tactics were not great in order to get rid of. And before I was talking about fake kind, a classic that I could have actually used as an example in that one, but I'll share with you quickly now, was that one of the things which we only found out about 40 years later was that he, when he first took over, he said, right, I'm going to take away everybody's weaponry because I want to keep them safe. I don't want to have people fighting. We've had enough fighting now. We fought for 20 odd years in the bush. We've now got our independence. We want peace. So that was the message. Peace, peace, peace. Let's be kind. Let's be, no more fighting. Let's have unity and calm and kindness, so that was kind of, that was his message, was that whole, I'm doing it for the benefit of everybody so that there's no violence. And we all bought into that. We took it at face value, and that's exactly what we did, until we found out that 40 years later, what he had done is he had actually taken all the weapons off everyone in all the tribal areas that he didn't want to have around anymore, and then he literally went in and wiped out the entire villages. We don't even know. They were literally thousands of people, could have even been hundreds of thousands. We don't know because they never recorded them. He literally took out entire villages. Now that, there's the fake kind. I'm doing it in your best interest. And he said, we're all one. Well, there was a bit of animosity, obviously residual discord because of years of unpleasantness for years, unkindness being done for years on both sides. But then, it was this whole tribal thing, and it was like, well, how inclusive is that? And I just even remember man, when he lost the elections and he wanted to be voted back in again, and he could not believe that he hadn't been voted in. So there's the ego for you. It was so large that he just deleted that. He was like, well, no, I was the freedom fighter. I should be on the throne in my position of power right up until the day I die. And that's how it's going to be. I'm not going to have it where that's not the case. So he made it where it wasn't possible to actually get him out. So he jimmied all the voting stations. All the areas where there were opposing tribe voting and not for him, against him. He would open late, shut early, have regular breaks that were extended, where the guys would just, the voting poll guys would just vanish for long periods of time. We had ballot boxes floating in Lake Kariba, which is one of our top ones up north of the country, and the inclusion factor just wasn't there. It's like, no, he wasn't being kind about it. We all knew it was happening. It had now gotten out to the populace that they were like, oh, he wasn't actually really very kind. He took away the guns so that we were defenseless against him, and he's wiped out entire villages. If he was really all about inclusivity, then that obviously he wouldn't have done that. If he was, singing from the right sort of song sheet about promoting kindness and unity and oneness, and all-inclusiveness, then he would have listened to the people's voice, which was, we appreciate you for the time that you've had here. You've done what you've done, but it's now time for someone else to come in, that all of that. And he made it very, his message was always about me, myself, and I. We weren't allowed overseas news even. So it made, that I was talking about yesterday about the kind shoes, where, if that man who presented his evidence from a book that had been printed, so it looked legit and everything, but of course it was made up by whoever wrote it, and who's to say that they were legit? And in this case, they weren't really. So in this case, it's the same thing. It was like he took away all the opportunities for people to look elsewhere to find out what he was really about, and that he was far from being inclusive. He was, the only people he included in his world were his cronies, people who actually supported him. So a classic example would be when it came to voting time, one time, because we had droughts and rations and everything else going on, there was extreme poverty. And what he would do is, even the World Health Organization brought in food, and what he did was, in some instances, and quite a few, he would take the grain or the food or whatever it was that had been delivered, that had been donated to the country for everyone to be included, for anyone who was hungry. This is what this was for. He took over those stations and he gave food only to the people who supported his party. So they would have to come with their card that said, I support Mugabe's, party, and then only then could they get food parcels for themselves and their family. Now that's not inclusive, but yet in how he presented it in the media was, I am all inclusive, look at us, we are donating all the food, we're distributing it, and taking photos of crowds of people, but it was his crowds of people. Everybody else had been filtered out. Everyone had been excluded, and it's like, how is that happening in our modern day society? I mean, even down to little things like, the other day we had an incident a few weeks ago, I can't remember exactly when it was, where, a girl was being targeted for her shortness. and and there was unkindness there. And exclusivity is like, what, so you don't hang out with short people? What is that about? So I drew the attention to the kids, and all my daughter's friends were like, well, we don't care what size she is, she's a nice person, we'll hang out with her, that's it, that's just how it is. And then my son has got a friend who's really tall. He's the complete opposite. And I was like, well, we don't exclude tall people now. This whole inclusive thing, there's a benefit to each of those. And I think I might have mentioned it in one of the videos, to include both of those are skill sets that we don't have. If we're sitting in the mid-range and we can't reach something on the top shelf, that tall dude, he's handy to have around, and I think I mentioned, like with my car the one time where I needed to actually get into the car, and I had a little, one of our smallest friends were able to actually get into the car and actually open it. So it's being aware of, messaging that's indicating, hey, exclude them because of X, Y, and Z. And it can be in media, it can be in churches, it can be in friends groups, it can be absolutely everywhere. As soon as they start saying discriminate because of, or exclude because of, or don't include because of, or oh, we don't hang out with that lot, for whatever reason, anything that promotes exclusion, they're not good. They're not great shoes. You just don't want to be wearing them. It's like, if people choose to operate from that, then I look at it like, what, that's your choice. If you're going to operate from that, they're not a pair of shoes that I wear. I'm inclusive. Sometimes I don't understand, what their preferences are or what their choices are. But as long as they're not trying to impose negative stuff on me or stuff that I don't want to know about. Like I remember I had a friend of mine who announced that she was gay. And this was years ago. And, back then it was kind of a lot less accepted than it is now. And we had the whole conversation, and she said, well, you're pretty laid back about it. I mean, I would have thought that you would have been a bit more upset. And I said, well, I was a little bit shocked, because she had actually gone out with a friend of mine at university for like 4 years. So that announcement did shock me, but it was just like, well, yeah, whatever. And she said, well, how do you handle it? And I just said, well, as long as you're not telling me about the specifics of what you do, or you're trying to hit on me, I honestly couldn't give two rats. Are you happy? Yes or no? Yes, she was. She went out with this person for years. I think it was, 8 years or something. And they were blissfully happy for that period of time. And I'm just like, well, so be it. If that's your shoes, babe, wear them, but don't, I don't tell you about all my sexual going on, things that I'm doing, like I've got my husband, that's private. I want to keep that private, and that kind of thing. That's where I kind of draw the line. But it's not that I'm being exclusive, I'm just not wanting too much information, and I just want people to become more aware of that, because it's absolutely everywhere, where they're saying, oh, be this way, and then they're like this in another instance. Oh, yes, we're doing it all for the benefit of all, but we're going to exclude this, race, this gender, this whatever, because that's not how we do it. No, that's not all inclusive. And if you go back to the whole thing of, if you think about energy on a bigger level, and you go further up and you go further up and you go further up, like if you go, you're a person that's one of many, okay? And then on this planet, we have one big planet that's a ball in the sky that is part of a multiverse. Really, we're in a universe with lots of planets, okay, that are all included in one universe. Then we've got multiverses, and then we don't know how far out that goes, but ultimately it's all space. It's all one thing. So we came from no thing into something, okay? And we are, if you trace us all the way back, we come from this really big, united oneness, okay? And there is disharmony and disconnect when you start splitting stuff off and splitting people off. That's where, on a soul level, people get fragmented, disjointed. That's why I call my wellness clinic Kotahitanga, which is all about reintegrating into one, like identifying the things that are fractured and split off and unifying on a individual basis and on a community basis, and then on a bigger basis with everybody, and then even bigger on a multiverse basis, and until we all realize that we're all connected to this one major, some people call it God source, or whatever your label is. It's the same energy. It's just a different name or a different label for that. And that can't survive if it's all split up. If it's all fragmented and disjointed, we have to have all those different parts to make the whole engine work and balance and have cohesion. And I want that cohesion back again, where, and anybody who says, no, that's not the way it works, needs to go have a chat with the big G upstairs, because the reality is that's not how it works, So awareness is where it starts. And so I'd like you to just have a think today about, inclusivity shoes. Maybe you've worn some of those shoes and been influenced and not realized and gone, I didn't even know that happened to me. Oh, okay. Do you know what? I'm taking those exclusivity shoes off, and I'm now going to put my inclusivity shoes on, and I'm going to be aware that whoever influenced me before doesn't ever do it again, so that I never ever am in a situation where, because we don't want it done to us. So do unto others as you would like them to do unto you, right? So if I were that person in those shoes, is that such a great place to be? No, I don't think so. And so for some people, this will be really quite uncomfortable to do, but go and include someone you ordinarily would not have included. Maybe you invite that person to the bowling club that you're really not wanting to have them come, or tennis club, or maybe it's you invite them for dinner, or you go, do you know what, I'm only inviting short people around today, or I'm going to have short and tall and medium size all come for a tea party this afternoon or this weekend or something. Do something, even if it's little, that makes you a little bit uncomfortable about something you might have been conditioned about years ago, which is the case with us in Zim, South Africa and stuff. A lot of it's cultural, and it's like, go and say hello to that person who you ordinarily wouldn't have. Make an effort with somebody, include someone that you were told you weren't supposed to, and just see, and you'll find that actually, sometimes if they've got the same thing going on for them, they might react, okay? But just be aware that they've been conditioned and trained to be in that way, and it's just that they've been influenced. And then recognize if that has been you. How was it? How did you get influenced to the point that you at some point thought that it was okay and right to exclude someone, so that you can clock it again if somebody comes along and goes, right, I want you to behave in this way, and you can go, do you know what, did that last time, no thank you, I don't think I'll put those shoes on. That's where I'd love you to be able to get to. I don't want you wearing those shoes. I mean, maybe you're the type of person who goes, right, I'm into exclusivity. Inclusivity shoes are not for you then, because inclusivity is about good, kind, connected people who are, that's who I want on my path, going my way, are people who, like in the Facebook group, only inclusive. I don't want any disparaging of anyone, putting anyone down, not including for whatever reason. I don't care if you're blind or black or white or orange or with polka dots. I don't care. I don't care. This is your soul. This is your soul purpose in your shoes, on your path, your way. And if you want to join like-minded people like that, come on over if you're not already in there, and share with me. Let us know. In fact, if it's like too uncomfortable, don't. I totally get it. But just try it on, or at the very least, investigate. Get your investigation shoes on, your Sherlock shoes on, and go, how did I get to be so influenced by that? How did I land up thinking that it was okay to behave like that and exclude those people and, be unkind to them and disparage them and put them down? How did I do it? At least that's the very least you could look at, and then go, okay, how can I not have that happen again? And then when you're brave enough, put on the inclusivity shoes and hop on over, join the club, and we can go from there. So if that sounds good, thumbs up, like, subscribe if you're in YouTube. If you are in Facebook, well, thank you once again for joining me. Okay, namaste everyone.